All right, we're back.
We're back. We had a little unexpected stopping point last time we recorded, which was going to be part 1 of part 2 anyway, but Natalie.
Yeah, it ended a little sooner than I was expecting. It brought up so much for me, and I'm so grateful for being able to just put a pin in it and come back to it when I was in a better place. I had no idea, just being up to my trauma-versary, if you will, of the timeline of being at Deer Hollow and going through this experience and being on my first introductory road to recovery, and then the realization of where I was in that current moment today and just feeling like I had slipped on my own path. That reality hit me hard last episode for sure.
So it had been 2 years, almost exactly.
Almost exactly to the day is what we're talking about. And I didn't even put it together that it could potentially be probably too raw to even talk about. And on top of that, as we know, I was going through like a medical snafu with my insurance and medication, so it was poor timing with being off medication and routine and stability and tiptoeing around some really deep layers, really deep layers.
And all of that is hard anyway on its own, let alone when you have we expect of ourselves so much to be so much further along than we actually, like time, we need time.
Yeah, and that's the hardest thing to be told is, and it's true, we do. We need time. And we want to be at a certain point, and we give ourselves, me included, an expectation or a goal in mind. And then that timeline comes up and you're like, wow, I'm not even close to where I thought I should be. But that's the thing, is we don't know where we should be at because we're not allowing ourselves to go through the grace of getting there.
Well, even becoming is life. There is no arrival point. It's
I know, that's hard for me.
There is zero arrival point. It is just we grow and we develop and we bloom and blossom and we mature with every passing month, but it's never I'm here and I'm going to stay here the rest of my life. That does not work that way.
I think I'm forever in blooming because I keep thinking I'm going to reach this epitome of growth and self-discovery and I'm going to be this like awesome bloom. But then every time I feel like I'm bloom, I'm like, oh, but then there's this another further layer I can get, and then I go back into blossom mode. So, or back into the bloom. So it's like all sucked in. So I can't wait for that being in full bloom and just being.
But
and trusting the process.
And we have to recognize we also already are fully in bloom too.
Yeah, we are. The whole time.
Maybe
it's all season.
Maybe we change color. Maybe the blossoms like take different forms. Maybe like it's just this growth evolution process.
Yeah.
And we just have to remember there is no fixed arrival point, but that also is the beauty of it because it makes life such an adventure. That who am I going to be in a year, in 2 years? How am I going to grow and develop and mature and be someone that I'm even more proud of and someone that I'm even more like happy to be in my own skin, you know?
Yeah.
The crazy timing of these 2 episodes also happens to be at a time that our personal community is really heavy right now.
Yeah, it's a very, very heavy time. With just my fire department alone, we had 2 deaths this last 2 weeks. One was a retired member. He had heart surgery and was in recovery and was told if you make it through the surgery in your 2 weeks of recovery, you're going to be fine. And he was right up to that final 2-week line, thought he was in the clear, and then he died morning of. So that sent a ripple through the retirement community as well as he was freshly retired. So he was very well known in the community and very well loved. And then 2 days later, we had an unexpected suicide of one of our members, and that has been a complete shock. It's left a lot of unanswered questions, and just really we have a lot of members who are struggling, you know, myself included, who are going through our own battles, and he wasn't even one that we had in mind. It was one of those no one would have thought or guessed in a million years it'd be him. And that's how it hits you. It's, you know, whether you're the person yourself or somebody you just really never think it's going to hit you personally or that close to home, and then it does, and it's just shocking.
Yeah. And also, as we said in our last episode, we don't also think it's going to be us.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked a lot about signs and reaching out to other people and taking cues if we know that someone is struggling, but we didn't actually talk about if we are that person and if we're feeling or experiencing certain things. So what would, just kind of taking a few steps back in your story, what were some of the thoughts and the feelings that you had that maybe can be signs to all of us that, hey, we start thinking this way, we start feeling this way, that's actually a great time to reach out and get support? Because if we don't ever think it's going to be us, we don't know at what point we hit that limit, right? Mm-hmm. And that's a hard finality that the ripple effects of are so vast and wide, and the only thing that really can help that is that opening up. But it's so hard to do that. Mm-hmm. And we think I'm not that bad, but then we have stories like what you just told us with your coworker. So
yeah, and perfect example. I mean, just at the end of last year, I mentioned it to you and several others. For me, it feels like the dark clouds are starting to roll in, and I started to feel that way right before Thanksgiving. Mm. Just like this dark layer about life, like anything that brought me joy before wasn't as exciting. Mm. I started to find myself not even wanting to walk to the mailbox and be outside when it's sunny outside. And just noticing those signs and symptoms first, because you don't have the will or desire to do the things that brought you joy before, you start like forgetting to do those things because you just don't think about them, or you say, oh, I don't want to do that right now, I'll do it later. And then a week goes by, 2 weeks goes by, and you've just allowed yourself to slip out of your routine and develop more of that space for depression to settle in. And that's how the first signs go for me. I notice a darkness that comes over, and then I stop finding joy in the little things. And this year I noticed that. And the thing I did differently was I reached out and I joined up in this IOP program. Hmm. And it was 3 days a week, and it was just
what does that stand for?
It's a like intensive outpatient, but it's basically like 3 days a week of therapy. You have structured learning, like structure that you go from. So we had mindful Mondays, thinking Tuesdays, and then thoughtful Thursdays. So that was just like the theme of the day and what we learned. But I set that pillar in place just knowing I was slipping into that seasonal depression. And I'm so thankful that I did that, because I set that up thinking, okay, I probably don't need this. This might be a little bit extra. But then I did need it. I ended up at the middle of December having no medication, and I had that pillar ripped out from under me. And then I had suicidal ideation, and it was the only thing on my mind. And because of those 3 days I had in place, I had an outlet already set up. But had I been in that frame of mind with no resources and nothing set up, I don't know how bad it could have gotten. I mean, it got really bad as it was. Mm-hmm. So imagine if I didn't have that pillar in place when the other one got ripped out.
That's a really interesting point, that you kind of just lose will.
Yeah, you just like slowly lack luster. Mm-hmm. You just lose the luster to do things, and you don't intentionally do it one day. You just eventually the no's that you give to enough people on invites, or enough no's to, hey, let's go for a walk. Nah, it just leads to a lack of doing anything. And
in that space, everything feels heavier too. Like everything feels more magnified, problematic. Mm-hmm. Your dishwasher goes out, it feels like the end of the world, and all the steps to actually fix that feel overwhelming. And
the size of the problem just magnifies. Because if our baseline, we should be on a scale from 1 to 10, probably walking around at a 3 out of 10 stress all the time. But we're busy, we're stressful creatures. But when you're already bumped up to that 5 or 6, and then like you said, your dishwasher goes out, or like for me, my oven goes out, it's enough to put you into that 7, 8, which is where you're reactive and you're noticeably different. And it just happens a lot quicker for some of us because we're escalated on the scale. Even just alone in our job escalates us 1 or 2 slots above a 3. So our baseline is raised.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, anyone who's struggling, I know you and I, we're happy to be supports and just give extra resources. And I think we all need to create a new paradigm when we're in this job, that at some point we are all going to need that extra support. So it's not a othering if you need it. It's not a I'm weaker. It's no, there's an ebb and flow in these jobs that require us to have more support at certain times because of that load, because of how hard it can be for us to process things. And we get so weighed down by some things, like the calls that bother me wouldn't necessarily bother you, and vice versa. But a series of those all in a row, that really can erode where we are and our ability to have our own positivity, resilience, outlook. And that's also you're not doing anything wrong, right? I think so often we think that, like, where did I go wrong with this? No, this is a byproduct of being in this field, that just as souls, our brains, like, we're not built to actually be able to handle that. It's something that we have to have more scaffolding and structure to get through it in a healthful way. So all that said, Deer Hollow, you get to Deer Hollow, and you start this big project of the timeline. And remind us, you had a week, or you had...
Yeah, it was less than a week. Yep.
And when you saw that timeline, when you were creating it, what were some of the thoughts that were going through your mind as you're basically writing out your life story and the way that you felt about it? How did that go?
Well, in that moment when I first started writing it, it all came from, like, shame. Because it was, like, really embarrassing stuff that I thought was my fault. I brought on myself. And especially the younger childhood stuff. It's like it all came out, and I was so embarrassed to even talk about it, or then to have people see me differently. So it brought up a lot of those emotions as I was doing it. But then there also came a moment where it clicked, where I was just like, wow, I've been through a lot of stuff. And then it just kept adding and adding, and then give you, like, the assignment, and you have 4 days to get all your stuff put together. And I see why they give you 4 days, because over those 4 days I would dream, and then the next morning I'd remember 5 more things, and I'd just write them on my timeline. And it just kept being like that. And then it's still like that today, to be honest. I sometimes will have a dream and remember things, from 5th grade. It's just the way my brain is now slowly coming back and bringing those memories back. Yeah. But that timeline, especially, just having it all out on paper and seeing it, was like, oh, wow, I do need to be here. And I was able to think, I'm surprised I haven't been here sooner. So I kind of had some, like, pride, like, wow, even with all this, look how far I've gotten. But that wasn't overnight. That took me several weeks to get there.
I feel like 4 days also, like, I'm glad it's not more time, because I think if I were, I would, like, start percolating, but like, oh my gosh, it's so much, oh my god, and I would, like, start being overwhelmed. But 4 days seems like the sweet spot of, like, percolate, let it all come up, and then, so once you were sharing, relive that. Yeah,
so I started 0 to 5, and I was standing, and I remember my knees were trembling, and I'm, like, telling all these strangers, because I didn't know any of them, my life story, and just...
That would be crazy.
It was really,
for me.
Really crazy. I didn't know them. Crazy. They don't know me, and, they're just looking at me like I'm telling them how to do a math problem.
Wow.
Like, just no reaction that I would expect, like they're not shying away, or they're just, like, sitting there just actively listening. But I remember by the time I got to my teenage years, I was down and I would scrunch into a ball. And so I wasn't sitting on the ground, but I was, like, crunched down because my legs would not support my weight anymore. I felt like I had run, like, a marathon through my legs. And it's interesting because by the end I was on my knees, and I read the rest of my timeline from my knees. I just couldn't stand and support myself anymore. Physically, somatically, I just like, it was so overwhelming. So overwhelming.
Yeah.
And that's what they say is you're running through a trauma marathon in your mind, and it's hours because by the time you do your whole life, and all while they're doing this, they're on a board behind you writing all your stuck points, which are things and ways you feel about yourself that you'll notice, you'll say, or they'll notice was what you mean, and they'll write it on the board like, I am a bad person. I am a failure. I do not do enough. All these, and they filled a whiteboard front and back while I was up there through my story. And then they take a photo, and then they print the photo, and they give it to you, and you have to work on each one of those individual stuck points and do a worksheet, and that's your homework. So it's like it ends up setting the tone for your entire stay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And really for your entire work, because it's all of your really young, early adaptive and maladaptive, like strategies and coping mechanisms, and everything is developed when you're younger, all based on these stuck points. And so it's a really great starting point.
Which essentially is a belief system.
It is. It's just the beliefs and how you believe about yourself.
Yeah.
It's I did a bad thing, or I'm a bad person. It's just how particular people view themselves or the world around them.
That's so fascinating, and how cool, overwhelming, and also that you basically have your own guide map.
It is. It's like a timeline. Yeah, of a guide map, like blueprint, if you will.
Blueprint, yes.
Of following, okay, hey, this week let's work on these 3 things. And then in just wherever you go, but you're working on 3 more checkpoints on the whole list. Eventually, they'll all be checked off. And then more will pop up.
Or deeper layers of
It'll just be deeper layers. Yeah.
What was your favorite modality? So we ran through, there was the drama, there was the small groups, there's the one-on-one. Did you do art therapy too?
We did art therapy and creativity therapy.
Somatics. What were a couple that you really enjoyed and you found like, oh, this really hit home for me?
I wish I could say what it's actually called, but it's Japanese art of the ceramic, and you break the ceramic and then you glue it back together.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's stronger than it was before, but it's also usable, and it's usually prettier because it has gold, and we put gold. We did a art project of that one day, and that was fun to be able to see that even though it's all cracked and you put it back together, like it still holds water. It's my key bowl at home. I throw my keys in it every day. It's like this little reminder that it's still functional and sometimes can even look better. So I really liked that. And I never saw myself as a creative person before. You tell me to sit down and color. I could do some basic rudimentary cartoons. And I found a lot of joy in those different art projects, and especially with the meaning behind it like that. And then the IFS, anything with parts. So being able to recognize that it's just a part of me and not the whole part of me feels less overwhelming. So it feels more achievable. It feels like I can actually create a goal around healing.
Yeah.
Instead of this overarching, like, I need to heal from all this stuff. It's just, today is just this one little part. And eventually, over the days, you'll reach it all.
We've referred to internal family systems before. Give us a little minute nutshell of what it is, how people go about working on their parts, and just kind of a mini deep dive into IFS, because we both have found incredible results, and by results I mean just healing and experiencing more fully ourselves with that. So give us a little intensive.
Yeah, I would say the best way to describe it is a multiplicity of the mind. So our mind...
Why? How is that different from bipolar disorder?
Exactly. So, and it sounds, trust me, I went through a long many days when I was learning about IFS thinking, so wait a minute, I'm supposed to talk to the different parts of myself out loud even sometimes. And then they're going to answer back to me. I was like, isn't there a diagnosis somewhere in here? Like, what is happening? So there is a major difference in that the way our brain categorizes any event that happens, it will create different pathways. And that is how it solves that specific problem. So if you're unsafe as a child and you're in an unsafe environment and you're about to touch a stove and you're about to burn yourself, your brain is going to send all those signals, hey, don't reach the stove, don't, it's going to keep you from touching it. Well, the same way from a traumatic event that's going to come up, like you witness something or you're abused and it doesn't make sense in your body, your brain doesn't know how to signal that it doesn't make sense because it doesn't make sense in its system. So it creates these different parts to help you cope and help you get through that moment. So if you're getting abused, maybe that's when disassociation comes in. So now your body doesn't know how to protect you, so it creates this part that allows you to just check out. And you don't hear the verbal abuse, you don't hear the yelling. It just goes in and out the other. But you disassociate and you lose time because you're checked out. But that's also a skill and was created to keep us safe. So every single event that has happened in our entire life, our brain is wired to keep us safe. And it is doing whatever it can possibly do to allow that. And in doing so, it creates this multiplicity of mind where it compartmentalizes these different parts of us that are working in its roles and functions. So like the brain can just give these foremen their projects and their jobs, and then the brain is still in the overall, he doesn't have to worry about the multitasking. Our brains are so busy and so diverse and they do so much, but they basically create these like foremen managers that create the different parts that keep us safe in some way. But the problem is, once the brain has created this wiring system, it can't uncreate it. It's not a single event. And then, your brain wires back and it goes normal. These parts are forever now. And so they keep doing their job. And they keep trying to create you safety in your system. And they keep working. And then that's where we have the burnout, the overwhelm, and the overuse of these individual parts, or they start to take on too much form because they just get too powerful because more and more trauma reminds them of this event. And so it responds in a certain way. And now that's your automatic behavior and you're responding. It can be even as simple as lying. Lying to get out of a dangerous situation when you're younger. Now your brain thinks that's the pathway. And now that's your constant response. Well, eventually that becomes too big and it has to be dealt with. And you have to retrain those parts to have a different job or a different role that serves you better.
That's so interesting. I was reading, who is the developer of this method?
Richard Schwartz.
Yes. So I was reading his book, No Bad Parts. So good. And I was immediately struck, I think it was the first chapter he mentioned, one of his ground zero patients that was bulimic. And
that's where it started from.
And how she would say part of me really just wanted to binge, or after part of me felt so ashamed and part of me, and so he went down this path of figuring out, okay, so there's all these different parts that are that are reacting to this same situation simultaneously. And it's the integration of those parts and bringing them back to ourselves, like you said, giving different jobs or roles that allow us to be more fully ourselves. And I was just like, wow, isn't that the truth? Because as so many females out there also experience with body dysmorphia, I remember that with eating disorders too. Okay, a part of me is starving, but a part of me will not let me eat, and a part of me would and all these different parts and layers. And I was like, wow, that makes so much sense. So what does it actually look like to? You were introduced to this method at Deer Hollow. What did it look like practically to actually do that work?
To first recognize what part was even showing up.
Okay.
Like what to even deal with and even focus on. It's like I didn't even recognize I have basically any type of part that you can possibly have, I have in some way developed in some way or another. So just trying to figure out what part is popping up. So like with my own eating disorder, if you will. So it's like the part of me that wants to overwork out, or the part of me that wants to eat and binge to soothe. Well, these all pop up when something else is activated. So recognizing, okay, I'm having these symptoms and these parts are doing the jobs. And then in turn, having that awareness to go deeper and figure out what are they coming out because
So essentially those symptoms aren't the actual problem.
They're not even the problem, they're just the first
isn't that
layer.
So fascinating?
Fascinating and frustrating. Because when I started recognizing, oh, I can do a whole parts map, I have all these things, then the next layer comes out where it's what is causing those parts to come out. And that's where a lot of the deeper work comes, where it's my insecurity in a crowd, my fact that my mom had an eating disorder and she created food insecurity in me as a child. And then now that's my hardwired system inside me is I have food insecurity. It's just my natural raising. So they're just so evident the older I get, but they come out from my lack of belonging at the end of the day. And in my thought that I will belong if I look a certain way, if I fit into this, if I go with the flow here, if I have control in some part of my life, then I'm okay. And the only place I can control is food. So when you can't control the other aspects, it's like, where can you control? And that's where I would focus.
So we recognize the part. Let's say, okay, we see this part. We are able to do some digging and find out, okay, so it is, let's just say, lack of belonging. What happens then?
So then I can recognize, okay, why do I not feel like I'm belonging? And go even deeper. It's like sometimes I found, one, I'm trying to, this is just specific to my story, I was trying to fit into places I just didn't belong. And I was trying to fit into, my family and my lifestyle, and it didn't go with my morals and my beliefs and what I wanted for myself. So I was trying to force myself into something that was never mine to fit into. So almost in a way, it was like, inevitably, it was like self-sabotage to set myself up for failure, to not even belong. But at the same time, that was where I desperately wanted to belong. So then came the next layer, which is polarizing, which is where you have two extremes in parts. So like you said, a part of you that's starving and wants to eat, but a part of you that refuses to eat and it won't. And those are polarized because they're too extreme. And a lot of parts will have a polarized part, and so they're battling. And that's like that even deeper layer. So that's where I was, where it's like I want to belong and I want to fit in, but actually I'm not safe in my family where I'm trying to fit in. So I recognize there's a need to not be there, but what other choice did I have? So it's that polarization inside me.
So when these things started coming to light at Deer Hollow, what was the, for lack of a better word, plan, process? Like, how did you start integrating those parts?
Man, I started doing worksheet after worksheet after worksheet because it was attainable. And every time I did a worksheet, I felt like, oh man, I'm healed this much closer. And I'm this much closer, this much closer.
Oh God, if only it were that easy.
Because I was making...
That workbook would be
it would be $1 million.
New York Times bestseller.
Yes, it would. And that's how I felt, because I was making these huge growths every single day and these revelations every single day. And I do 10 worksheets, which is like a lot of self-work and working through these stuck points. And I was like, dang, I'm going to be cured by the time I'm out of this place. So that was how I first started tackling it, was I was really disciplined in setting up and creating the intentional space to work on a problem. And it was really easy in that setting and scene when that's your only job. You have no TV, you're not allowed to have screens, you have no phone.
There's no one else you're taking care of.
You have no responsibility other than yourself. And so you just sit around the table, you do your worksheets, your homework, you have these deep conversations with people. And so the scene and the setting is really easy. Well, I don't do 10 of those worksheets a day now. And it's like, there are some days I definitely should. But it's just, now we're back in real life. And so now how do I do it? I do it in my mind. I've done them so much that now I can hear myself say a stuck point or say I should. And I catch myself and I think, oh, what did I just should on myself? Oh, I wonder what else, how can I say this differently? And then it's like, oh, I get to do this. Oh, I get to do. Just that simple reframe or that rewrite is doing the work. Because it's putting it in action.
It makes so much sense that you liked the art project because you're taking all the pieces and you're putting them back together.
Instant gratification.
Yeah.
I need it.
Yeah, but that speaks so much to parts work too.
Yeah, it does.
You're just integrating all the parts and you have this beautiful...
And repurposing them and reshaping them.
Yeah. That's really, really cool.
Yeah. And it's I really like the idea. At first, because No Bad Parts is the name of that book. And I'm like, really, no bad parts? Because some of these parts could go, right? Like, some of these habits.
I'm real tired of this part.
Yes, I'm tired of these habits and these bad habits. And it's like, when you further explore, there really is no bad intention of a part. They really are there to keep you safe. Even I've dealt with the darkest depths of my parts and my suicidal part. And that part only came up and came to be in last ditch effort and hope to slow me down.
Yeah.
And to teach me to relax and take a break and just start to be in the moment and stop pushing. I mean, I tried with physical injuries, medical illnesses, sickness, and just nothing stopped me. So then that last ditch attempt is suicidal ideation. All with the intention just to slow me down.
Yeah. With doing this work, let's say, remind me the total amount of time you were at Deer Hollow.
90 days, and then 3 months when I got home.
The 3 months was follow-up. So with that 90 days, what did you feel after the first 30 of this intensive work every single day?
Oh my gosh. First, I was not ready to go home because I knew I was just so raw. If I would have gone home and not stayed for that second part, because the second part is considered extra. So the first 41 days is your in residence, and then you have your outpatient treatment, which is days, but you stay in a sober living residential. So that's the second part, and you have to opt into that, which is an option. And then there's a third part, which is part-time IOP, which is half days, but you're in the same sober living. So there's 3 different layers of the program, and that's how it's set up, is for you to graduate from full intensity to medium intensity to low intensity to being home. But most people, we only have the luxury of going the 40 days and then you go home. I cannot even imagine what would happen if I went home, because I was just so raw and so open still, and I hadn't processed even 10% probably. I had just barely developed my awareness and being able to notice I was feeling what emotion. Outside of angry and sad, I didn't know what I was feeling. And then by the end of 30 days, I was able to just label what emotions and parts were showing up for me. So I hadn't even hit that next layer of why are the parts showing up?
Yeah.
So I recognize that. And my counselors very blatantly told me I was not ready to go home. So I'm really glad that I stayed, because it was another 40 hours a week of therapy after that I was going to. But yeah, after that 30 days, I remember thinking, I have all the ability to cure myself in this book and all these stuck points, and I just need to go through the worksheets. But I recognized how little I knew, how much more I had to learn.
But I love that phrase that you had this sudden, for lack of a better word, I think it's hope that, wow, the answers are actually in me.
Yeah.
I just need to dig them out. I need the set and the setting and the support to keep percolating and going deeper and peeling back the layers. And how wild is it that you went, 36 years?
Mm-hmm.
And you felt like you barely knew yourself.
Yeah, I barely knew myself. Yeah.
How incredible that all of the ways we can adapt and the maladaptions just in this effort to be safe through this world.
Yeah.
Wow. So you did the 40 hours a week from day 40 to day 90. What would you say, like, percentage of improvement? Like, you felt, from when you started to the end?
It definitely picked up at the outpatient. It was more practical minded, so it was a lot more of how to integrate tools into use in everyday.
That's awesome.
The first part was like how to just recognize and notice, and then from there you're supposed to go deeper with your therapist and be able to do the work, like if you just go home. So instead you get to the outpatient and they're available to do the deeper work, but they teach you tools that actually are, like, I still use today. Like, I learned a simplest 5-minute little lesson. It was on a mind map where you just do a brain dump and you do a spider web and you draw all the thoughts in your brain. You just do a brain dump, 3 minutes, boom, you're done. I learned that in the game changer, because that's like something applicable, usable, and you can take it and do it anywhere. So those are the kind of tools that they taught you in the second part, which was really, really helpful, because it allowed you to, once you put the pieces together, now what's the next step to look for to apply them.
And I bet that was just so revolutionary that you have the knowledge and now you have practical tools that help you continue in the everyday life, because the everyday life is really where it all happens.
Yeah, and that's where we had, like, they had integration of Dharma. So we had Dharma recovery, and so we had yoga 3 days a week, and then Dharma recovery, and that started to be on a regular in that middle portion of Deer Hollow. So that is where it taught, like, applicable skills that you could do in everyday life, and you got to put them into practice. So I think that was such a valuable window of time that I was able to go through to learn things that I still use today. But it took the awareness of the first level and then the second level of just like, how do I put these pieces into play? And then that third final level was like, how do I actually go back and resolve these deep-seated stuck points? Because you can write them out all day. And, like, sure, maybe every time you write it, 1%, you remember it and you memorize it. And then you do it 100 times, there's 100%, right? But sometimes also you have to, like, really integrate what you're working on to really feel it and make it manifest and stick with you. And that is where the time comes in.
I know, like, cognitive behavioral therapy, it's like you believe this, well, what do you want to believe? Well, where's the gap? But this is even deeper, because you're looking at the feelings that are also a part of that with the parts.
Yeah, because it's almost like in my parts therapy, if I'm with a counselor, it's almost like I'm a mediator of my own parts.
Okay.
So it's like the part comes up and it really does lead the show and tells me why it's mad, why it's overworking, why it's doing this. And then I talk to it like, oh, I recognize why you're working so hard. And then I have to thank that part and, like, thank you for working so hard. How can we make your life easier? And then it's like the therapist asks me to ask myself those questions. And so it's back to the multiplicity of your mind, where you have to, go into your mind and you're talking to the individual foremans and you're like, hey, how can we make your life easier? Like, how can we shift your role? What support do you need from me? And then we're able to be the bridge between our brain and just giving ourselves what we need.
That's amazing that it's like resourcing yourself.
It is like resourcing yourself.
Because then no matter what external situation, no matter the lack of support you have in the world, you have those resources inside you that like, I don't know how that couldn't build resilience, because you can access what you need inside.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
I think
and
is
it's
very
always with you.
revolutionary. Yeah, it's always with you.
It is revolutionary. It's only been around in the last 30 years. This whole concept and idea of multiplicity of mind, a lot of backlash because of, like you said, bipolar disorder and multiple personality disorders and being so closely related. And then also it's just woo-woo still. You know, there's a lot of scientific background, like research and supporting evidence, but we're also still in a medical field where you have to go off labels and codes, and you can only bill for CBT, DBT, different modalities like that. Maybe other ones like IFS and somatics, things like that aren't covered on the insurance world. So we gravitate toward things we can pay for and afford. And that's
But it's
medically
crazy
provided.
because as both of us have had 15 plus years of therapy, and yet getting to IFS and these deeper modalities are actually what have made life-changing difference.
Yeah.
And now for you, for both of us actually, this is a field that we want to go into, but you are actively in school now. So it almost is like on your 2-year anniversary, you have another full circle moment of you were in the trenches doing it yourself, and now you're getting the tools you need to be able to actually help others. So what is how are you, and I love that so much, because I think that's really why we are all here. Like, we're all here to transmute our experiences and alchemize our experiences, and then be able to impact other people with that.
Yeah,
and
it's like legacies and like like even just in the fire department, the legacies of the people who were there before me. It's like I loved honoring the SDM and the little slang things that we had in the fire department that were just known because, you know, so and so back 20 years ago said it. I loved those moments and those things.
And now you get to be a part of that journey with other people, or that's the path that you are on now. And how cool also that I'm sure along as you're working towards this goal, you're also taking away nuggets for yourself too. I bet that's really
so
fun.
Much, like too much. It's almost too much. And you know, it's funny is I still, and I'm always going to be this way, but I want to jump the gun, and it's like immediately want to help other people, right? And I am learning very obviously, like every single day in school, that it's like you start with yourself, because all of this lessons and the structure I'm learning, and even some to go as far as like the scripts that you follow for different lectures or classes and sessions, I'll go through that, but you go through it all to yourself first. So everything I'm learning about and going through school, and I'm going to be using with my clients, I'm having to go through myself. And so it's like going
You're
through
learning
a
it through the lens of yourself.
Through the lens of myself. And I don't know if that's an advantage or a disadvantage in my situation, because I have like a lot of a scope and awareness to be able to like comb through, which is great, but it allows for like ultimately more growth. But it also, I'm recognizing I'm putting this like bar on myself that I'm the typical patient, and like I have a lot of layers, and I'm on the like lowest layer where I'm really diving deep, but a lot of patients and clients are still in this like first portion. And it's interesting, what I'm learning is I'm so insecure about, like, to get to those last layers, you need help, outside help to get there. Like, I can't therapize myself in those. You need an outsource, and that's just the way it is.
Even if it's just a mirror.
Even just somebody to reflect it back. Exactly. And that's where I'm at in needing. So to feel like I have the ability to work through a script and work through and see and recognize somebody's parts, it's like every single session, as I put this expectation on myself going in, that I have to have this result and this big experience for this person. And I'm recognizing that, like, I'm forgetting, I should say, that what it feels like to experience 10 minutes of self-energy is incredible.
It's
and
so powerful.
That's where I started. But I'm holding this bar from being to where I, like, you know, I've been putting in 2 years, and that self-energy is most of the time. And so I'm like, the reflection and just the peace, I guess all this to say, it's interesting how simple it really is and how complicated I have made it in the whole scope of it, just because I'm in such a dark and like deep layer of myself and going through it personally, and then to be in a space of openness and self energy to work with another person's parts and not get them tamed in your own. It's challenging, and so that's been my newest discovery I've found. It's just trying to keep it unblended, because I can recognize and see people and their different parts of them coming up in their stories, and it's so powerful. And I just want to jump in and go all the way to this bottom layer, and I forget to start here at the foundation, which is where I'm learning.
Because again, it takes time.
That's the problem. I want to jump in here, which is like 4 months of steady work. You're not going to do it in one session.
No.
But there's that impulsivity to me and wanting instant gratification, closure, I like to have a result. And it's like, I have that pressure, that fire department pressure still that I put on myself.
It's just going to take a while to shed, I think.
Because it's a new discovery. It wasn't there a month and a half ago. I was doing fine. And then a new lesson, a new experience, something new, and it just pops right back in.
I love the timing of all of this, because you're in your IFS class right now, so everything is fresh, and you have already done the somatics. So I'm curious to see, how do you expect to, as of now, what is kind of your vision for blending the two, working with somatics and IFS? Like, what's your dream to do, especially with like first responders?
Yeah, I want to work and incorporate both, because the whole way to discover in parts work your parts is through your body, because first it comes with sensation and where it is and where you notice it and feel it in your body, and then you recognize what's the intention behind it and what are those parts, and then what's the layer it's covering, then what's the part it's protecting. So in order to recognize any of that, it starts with the somatics, which is your body. And so what I'm learning, and unfortunately it's my biggest area of weakness, is my connection to my body, because I think I've just been through so much pain, and we go through so many injuries that it just all feels the same. It's just like I wake up and my whole back hurts. Well, does it really, or is there 3 sections? Like if you explore it a little closer. But somatics is like the foundation and the gateway of any information you need to yourself.
It's the language of the body.
Yeah, it is. It's just the language of the body. And then once your mind starts to dissect what it's saying, then you put those pieces together, and that's where IFS comes in.
Okay, so maybe just as a little, practice, and we can do a little demo for our listeners, just give them a little taste of like what this actually would look like. Does that sound fun?
Yeah, that sounds fun. Why don't we start with just telling me simply something in the last couple days, or maybe this last week, or in general if you want, that you've been going through, or you recognize it brought up like a lot of reactions that you weren't expecting. Is there anything that you've kind of gone through recently that you can think of that brought that up in you?
Yeah, as we've talked about with perimenopause, all the different symptoms that you can experience as your hormones change. For me, one of the things that I have been like unraveling is just a massively complicated relationship with my body, and I've made so much progress, and I like feel genuine feelings of like warmth and love and fondness, but with the hormone changes and finding myself like way more overstimulated than normal, and it's so weird because nothing, like I'm not busier. In fact, I think I am doing less than ever before in my life. I'm sleeping better and more, and I have practices in place, and I'm at this point that, especially with like light sensitivity, it is so extreme, and it's now becoming to the point where when I wake up without light sensitivity, it's like a surprise and like my day is already made.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, like I woke up with no light sensitivity today, and as the day progresses, I'm noticing a heightened reaction to that light. And I understand there's like a lot of changes going on, and we just kind of have some adaptions. But for me, what it brings up is just like, oh my God, yet another thing that I'm having to deal with physically, that it just seems like every couple of years there's something in my body that I have to deal with on such a almost life-altering scale. And I feel frustrated. I feel like aggravated and annoyed. Mm-hmm. And a little bit of despair's the wrong word, but maybe disappointment that like, God, yet again, like yet another thing.
Yeah. I sense that disappointment as well as that frustration. And I'm curious because just in hearing it and personally being able to relate to the perimenopause and the weird things it brings up, and I'm curious, I sense like a little bit of fear in there as well.
Oh, that, yes. When I, that's so funny you say that, because the other night when I was at work, I just had this like fear that came up that like, is this going to get so much worse that I can't deal with it? I can't live with it. Like, how do I keep living with that? And it's not much, but it definitely is there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds like it. And like I could imagine just the fear of, like you said, every couple years something has come up that you've had to overcome. Like just looking back in your medical history and the major medical adversities you've had to overcome already. I can understand and recognize where the fear could be coming from, that's a road you're heading down again, and you already know what that looks like.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, a lot of that, if that fear comes from that, just like wondering if that's the road that you're down again.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, right?
I definitely think so. Just like with, with Lyme disease or with, chronic injuries or now this. I also know I have a more sensitive nervous system. I have more now awareness of bodily sensations, and so I think before I had Lyme disease, I didn't have any of that, and so I think it was in some ways this hit of an extreme because I had no idea, and it just got worse and worse and worse to the extreme. And so now I'm going to the other extreme where I have this awareness and I notice things, but it's getting worse and worse and worse. Mm-hmm. And I think the fear is I don't want my life to stop because I have physical things that I'm going through. Like, why is this? When is this gonna not be the story?
When's it end? And as long as we know, as long as we're human beings, we're gonna go through something. Especially as women, we go through extra menopause and perimenopause and symptoms that we don't even know or discovered yet. That's even more frustrating.
I cannot even believe it. I'm like, in what world do we go through periods for 40 years?
Yeah.
30 years, and then all of a sudden things get worse?
Yeah, that's what you have to look forward to.
I'm so befuddled.
Yeah. I'm curious with the other things that you've really gone through and worked through, like Lyme disease, for instance. Have you gone back and done any work as far as thanking yourself for making it through that and having come out on the other end?
I think to a degree. I think so. I can say looking back, my body's come in clutch. I am grateful that it's this double-edged sword. I'm so grateful for the sensitivity now because it does allow me to walk into a room and notice who are the people who are hurting, who are the people who are, and sense and see this emotional landscape with my body. On the flip side of that, it makes it that the daily experience of living in a body that's that sensitive also feels frustrating. So I think that there's I guess there's a part of me, if that's what we're getting to, there's a part of me that is so grateful, and then there's a part of me that's just so irritated and annoyed that this is what it means to live in a sensitive body. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I'm curious with that part of you that feels that irritation. Do you notice anywhere that it feels in your body just when you even talk about it? I noticed you got a little bit tense when you brought it up and
I think it's definitely in my solar plexus. Everything kind of tightens up in there.
And is there anything else that comes up when it tightens up in there? A color that pops to mind or any kind of feeling that arises with that?
Just a dark layer.
A darkness?
A dark, in there. Dark and tight.
And with that dark and tight, can you describe it any more? Is there any lightness or does it feel heavy? Is there tingling? Maybe a throbbing sensation?
Heavy, dark. It kind of feels like it radiates out. The more intense, the longer I sit in that feeling, the more intense it becomes, and then it starts radiating out and up towards my shoulders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the more attention we're kind of getting it, the more loud it's getting.
Yeah.
Just giving us messages. And then as we sink into that kind of feeling in that solar plexus, and as you said, it's rising, we're thinking into it. Is there any memories or thoughts or anything that come to mind?
The first thing that comes to mind is just there was a day on my couch when we lived in Denver, and I was getting Lyme treatments, and I just had this horrible despair, feeling so sick. And it was so interesting because I felt it in my body, but I didn't. Maybe this was disassociation, but I didn't feel emotionally. I wasn't I didn't feel like crying. Mm-hmm. I didn't feel sad, but there was the heaviness and despair was a boulder in my solar plexus and chest.
Yeah, it was like that in that moment on the couch.
Yeah.
And that's similar to how it is now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that would make sense, going through a similar experience or the fear of going through that moment. That would make sense that you'd have the same physical reaction or symptoms. So what I would want to do, with parts work from there, is getting to know that part a little bit more and just maybe building some compassion around it, such as remembering that almost despair you said that you were feeling. And I'm curious if you could think of the opposite of that despair. What would that feeling be like to you?
I think positive energy. Just where it's a charge of life, spark of life. That would be the feeling.
Interesting. So kind of something that you do carry now. And that anyone who says they know Christina, spark of life, full of energy.
Well, the funny thing about that is I actually don't feel that in my body. I very much have daily I speak over myself that I am life, I am energy, I am vitality, I am. But I've discovered that I need to speak this over myself because in my body I feel fatigue and I feel heaviness and I feel these other things, which is partially why I got into biohacking and just having these additional resources to support. But I felt these things so much that then I began to, say it like, oh, I feel so tired today, or I feel so fatigued. And it occurred to me one day, a few months ago, I was like, well, I need to say what I want to feel. Like, I need to reprogram myself so that I start manifesting this differently. Like the scale of regularity in which I feel a spark of life in my body is like nil. Like, it is so infrequent that when it happens, I'm like, I am ready for this day. Like, let's go. Let's do it. Like, I feel, but that is actually very, very rare.
That's interesting. So yeah, isn't that funny how we have an idea of ourselves and then everybody else has a different opinion? It's so interesting to me. Yeah, what I would want to do would be go back and connect to that part and just being able to give it a little bit of compassion for what it went through, and remember and go through a meditation and actually bring up that feeling to where you said it came through your chest and whatnot. And I would want to bring that out more, which usually brings up even more deeper emotions. And then from there, being able to go to a neutral place in your body. So I would bring you down probably to like your legs, uncross, and do a grounding and a meditation that way. And just sinking into your body, like you said, and then trying to manifest that energy. So like with wanting to be that vitality or that spark or that creation, like what is it in your body, in Christina's makeup, that Christina needs to get there? And then figuring out what that piece is. And then that becomes your work that you can take with you and bottle up and put and bring out wherever. Like for me, I don't know why, but vagal humming works like really well.
That's awesome.
To like slide up my dimmer switch a little bit. So it kind of makes me feel a little bit more alive. But I have to be really loud, so I can't just be in store at the grocery line and do that.
Not just humming as you're doing your groceries.
Yeah, but I would want to go down that route. And so that would, in synopsis, be like a 55-minute session. So it just starts where you get a little bit of the piece of the story of like sensitivity to light, perimenopause, frustration, which brings out the fear of then what you've already been through and how it feels in your body. And then it would make sense you have the same similar reactions because your body thinks it's going through the same. Yeah. So then how can we change that wiring of your brain thinking it's going through that and give it a redirection? And then you just slowly redirect that path. And then over time, that wiring becomes automatic and not intentional, becomes automatic.
Wow, that is so cool. I feel like this would save talk therapy.
Well, and that's what it is. Like my therapist, who like you just got in, and I'm so excited to hear the rest of how that went. Our sessions will sometimes be 35 minutes of nobody talking. And I'm just going through the emotion. Like I start and I dump a story for 15 minutes and then connect it back to something. And then through her specifically, through brain spotting, you focus on one spot and you just let your brain process through it and give it the space to work through it. But sometimes I'll be in the same spot for 20 plus minutes and cry, and then all of a sudden I'll feel happy, and then I'll feel fear, and I just let it go through. And just allow myself to just feel the full range of human experience. But because of my trauma and my history, my body won't allow me to have that range unless I feel safe. And it creates it needs a lot of creating that environment for safety to feel as deeply as I can feel in those sessions. But it's like talk therapy for 10, 15, 20 minutes, and then it's your body experiencing and feeling it and being walked through meditation and just being able to process it through. And then 10 minutes at the end, be like, whoa, this is what I was thinking.
Wow.
And because my counselor's always like, okay, what were you thinking during that time? Like, what happened? And what happened when your shoulder lifted? And she'll be like, and what happened when you're pulling your ear? What were you thinking about? Because like all these, my body just has impulses to do stuff.
Yeah, that's incredible. I could see that doing that would just be doing the brain spotting and the somatics and IFS as first responders would help alleviate so much of everything we carry.
Yeah, because a lot of us don't, and it's that's the part, is it's not about the story. And like, we're taught that we need to talk about it and talk through it, which is really valuable to do that. And that's not the only way to heal through it. Like, we don't need to just be living in this negativity and this story and drawing out as much as possible from it. We can just tell the story once and see where it is in our body, and then our bodies can reset and heal the way they're supposed to. And ultimately, you just feel different. You don't feel the aching in your shoulders and the aching in your back and the worry that you carry across your forehead and you're all scrunched up, you know. You just start to dissipate that more into your whole body, not just little spots.
What amazing work.
But it totally blows my mind. And it's always different every session too. And like yesterday I did a session with one of my it was the day before yesterday, with one of my cohorts, and she wasn't feeling anything, but she's like, I don't know, I feel this weird rectangle on the back of my head. I have a little headache. And then I ended up in this really childhood memory. And it all started from just a rectangle. And then the more she thought about it and focused in on it, it was an orange triangle, or an orange rectangle. And then that orange, the story and the color of orange meant something to her.
Oh.
And so then discovering what that memory is, and then what she was feeling during that memory. And then it was 20 minutes of just a meditation and her just allowing her experience. But it all came from just a headache. And it wasn't just a headache. It was her worrying about the stress of what she's going through now, which triggered this memory from way back then. So it's just kind of linking the two. But it's wild.
Thank you so much for sharing your experiences. And I know, especially with last week, it was so hard to get through. We talked a lot that day off
Jumped
camera
on the trampoline,
too.
the red light therapy, hopping.
We did a
All the
lot,
things.
but
Lots of tears.
that's why we're here. We're all here to be here for each other, and I think the amount of positive reaction that we've gotten from this podcast and being just raw and real about and vulnerable about what we've gone through as female first responders has resonated so much, because all these women have such similar experiences. And I hope that with our season 1, we've been able to bring some of those to light, and maybe also bridge some of the gaps of like aloneness and, you know, othering that has taken place for, you know, the lone female in a department of 200 dudes, like what those experiences are, and that we're all in this together, and it's been so fun.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And it's interesting, just the human experience, how it affects us all.
Yeah.
And none of us are exempt. I mean, we're all going through some kind of experience, and I love just learning about what other people are going through and realizing I thought everything was just happening to me and like just something I was going through. And now the more I share, the more I recognize like, oh, this is actually a normal response and a normal way to feel, and there's nothing wrong with me. It's like,
it's just a human experience.
It's a human experience.
Living itself through you.
Yeah. That's it.
In a unique way. Yeah. And that story means something. And my story means something. And all of our listeners' story means something.
Yeah.
So.
And it's still unfolding.
It is.
No matter where we're at in the journey, we have so much further to go.
Yeah, there's so much life to be lived.
Encouraging.
There's so much more life to be lived. And I can't wait for your book. I can't wait for the book that I write eventually.
I know. A lot of amazing things are going to come out. Next season, meeting with a bunch of other practitioners and different people in the medical field. It's going to be fascinating to follow.
You will. So we want to thank our listeners yet again. We want to thank our amazing producer, JD, and
JD.
Next season. Can't wait.
Can't wait.